You're listening to Wildlife Control Consultant, where we provide research-based information on all things related to vertebrate pest management. Hi everyone, Stephen Vantassel here, Wildlife Control Consultant, bringing you another episode of the Wildlife Control Consultant podcast, where we deal with everything related to the technical side of vertebrate pest control. Hey, glad to have you on board. I hope your week went well. I've been fairly slow. Of course, we had Christmas this past week, but pretty slow. I've been really slogging away at some PowerPoints, getting a training that I'll be giving hopefully in a year or so. So it's a lot of background research, getting those PowerPoints looking good and available to be understood by the audience. PowerPoint on Canada geese control. So so I'm getting near the end of that, and so I'm pretty pleased with where that is going along. But enough about me. Do take a few moments, if you could, to subscribe to the channel. If you want to reach out to me and give some comments, you can reach me at wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com, wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com. Would love to hear your thoughts about future shows, comments about past shows, and if you have someone who has a service or product that would be useful for the vertebrate pest industry, we'd love to hear from you, because we'd love to have guests on our show talking about their products and showcasing them for a wider audience. You can reach me again at wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com. Okay, here we are near the end of the year. I just thought I would spotlight one of the documents that we have for sale on the website, wildlifecontrolconsultant.com. This is a book I revised by Dr. Frischman, and it's the Vertebrate Pest Handbook, except where he was broader in his edition, dealing with a lot more vertebrates. I narrowed it down to commensal rodents, and that would be house mice, Norway rats, roof rats, but I also included Peromyscus, so that would be the white-footed mouse and the deer mouse, dealing with things about their biology, their control, rodenticides, non-rodenticidal controls, and it's basically a Q&A. So if you're looking for question and answer type training format, I maintained his format. If you have one of the early editions, I sell his earlier edition. So if you're looking for a way to sort of have little quizzes for your workers or perhaps for yourself, this is definitely a way to go, and you can purchase it directly from the wildlifecontrolconsultant.com store. All right. Well, what I wanted to talk about today is that as we're in the transition to a new year, some of you, of course, may be a little slower at this time, but now is the time to be thinking about planning for the future. And some of you, raccoons are a major part of your business. And wouldn't it be great if there was a way to estimate how much raccoon work you might obtain? Now, you can only get raccoon work if there are raccoons around. So how do we estimate their numbers? Because you don't have the time to go out and doing spotlight surveys or trap release surveys. How is there a way to do that? And would you find it valuable? So this is something I saw in an interesting article by Dr. Gehrt. And let me pull up that information for you and tell you how you can do that, because he contends that there is a metric or a way for you to determine whether you're going to have a big year or regular year of raccoons in your particular area. So let me get this set up here. There we go. Okay. Now, what his theory is that he was using roadkill as a metric to determine and estimate raccoon numbers in a particular area. And he basically said you need a couple of things in order to do that. Number one is you need to choose a season of the year. Okay, so you can do it in the spring, you can do it in the fall, you can do it both seasons if you chose. But that's one thing. You need to kind of pick a season, and you're going to be monitoring this for I would say for a couple of weeks, right? It doesn't have to be forever. It's not like you have to do it months after months after months, but you need to give it enough time to have something meaningful. I mean, if I had to give you a number, I would probably say do it for a month. The next process is that this decision that you need to make is you need to identify a particular route. Now, I have here in the pictures, you have basically three kinds of roads, right? So you have the superhighway on the lower left-hand side, right? I mean, obviously it's an 8-lane highway, right? 4 lanes one way, 4 lanes the other way. That is huge. It is going to be a gauntlet for a raccoon to get across that. Okay, so he does not recommend using that particular road. Again, we're looking for a road that is sort of the Goldilocks, right? Not too busy, not too empty, but it's got to be just right. Okay, so the issue here is that this is something that he has to that you have to find out. So you need to find a road that has moderate traffic. Now that can be something as simple as, 35, 50 cars a day is what his estimate was. Now, how do you know how many cars are on the road? Well, chances are you don't know how many cars are on a particular route, right? So you need to, do some estimations. You know what's not going to work. You know a road that's not very traveled. That's not going to work. And what about those roads in the middle? So what I did was, let me escape out of this. And what I did was I went online and I found this particular website. And I would suspect that most states have this, maybe not to this level of sophistication. But if you look up the Department of Transportation for your particular state and ask it for daily traffic information. Now, this one out of North Carolina is interactive. Now, notice it's got this, huge screen with all these green, orange, black dots, and it will give you numbers about what the average daily traffic would be in these particular areas. Now, hopefully you can see some of this. I'm going to hit this little orange dot here on this major highway. Notice what it says here, 30,000 daily traffic. Obviously, that's going to be too much, right? So here we have the year, 2002, you had 30,000. 2003, they had 32,000. 2007, 32,000. So that's a pretty standard. Now we're getting up to 2023, 35,000. So you can see there's a little bit more traffic there. Okay, that is not going to be a good road. What if we go to one of the the purple spots here? What's that say? All right, now we're getting down to 7,600, 8,700. Okay, 4,523. Okay, what if we go to let's go way out to one of these other little green spots now on one of these roads. Now we're getting down to 2,400. Now we're starting to get into an area where, that's probably going to be in that zone, but that will give you an idea of where to go. Now, why is this important? Because you need to have a route. You need to have a route that someone is driving on a regular basis. Now, it doesn't have to be a daily basis, but it needs to be a regular basis. Something, once every 3 to 4 days, they're driving this particular route because you need to standardize this. Now, you can have multiple routes, right? You can have, route 1 is going to be done on Monday, a route 2 is going to be done on Tuesday, a route 3 is going to be done on Wednesday. You get the idea. And this is going to be particularly helpful for those of you that have employees or for those of you that have standard accounts that you're visiting on a regular basis. And because what you're trying to do is you're trying to say, okay, on this particular route that I'm traveling regularly, I am going to monitor and look for raccoon kills on this road for a month, or maybe 5 trips. Now you're probably going to travel it twice. You just take the, if you're counting both ways, make sure you just take the highest number, okay, and not double count, right? You don't add them together. You take the highest number of both ways. So if you have 5 going to the location and then 7 coming back, you choose 7 as your metric number. And then you're going to take those numbers over your number of trips, and you're going to calculate that, and then you're going to say, okay, how many miles is this route? And you're going to come up with a raccoon per mile figure. Let me kind of explain that into the next slide. Let me get to that. So you're going to develop what's known as a roadkill index. I know it's kind of gruesome stuff here, to be sure, right? But nevertheless, what you're doing is you're like, okay, if your route is 25 miles and you saw 15 raccoons in that dead on that 15 miles, and then you're going to average all this out, right? And then you're going to get to what's called a rate. And now here it would be 0.6 raccoons per road mile. Okay? And you're going to get a number. Now, your first year of doing this, that number's not going to mean a whole lot to you. The goal is to develop this information over time so that the route, if you use the same route over the same period of time, year after year after year, you're going to develop an idea of a metric to say, do we have higher numbers? Do we have lower numbers? And this can be predictive for you, helping you to know whether you're going to have a big raccoon year or not. And if you have a big raccoon year and you're not getting the calls, well, then maybe you have too much competition. Maybe your prices are too high, but you can use this number. And this is not a very time-intensive concept here. And notice again, these are just numbers I've just put into a chart here. But notice for 2019, I said we have 17 raccoons for every 25 miles, and that gives us a rate of 0.68 per miles. And I put in the question mark, and that is this going to be a banner year for 2019? Because you can see how that is a significant, you say, oh, Stephen, it's only a little bit more than a tenth of a point, a little bit more than a tenth of a point. A difference, yes, but you're dealing with averages over large numbers, okay? And then you're getting an idea that, yeah, probably this is going to be a banner year for raccoons in 2019 with these types of figures. But you could also see, in 2017, wow, it's like, what happened to the raccoons? They kind of dropped off a cliff there. Maybe that'll tell you you're not going to have a big year in raccoons, and maybe you need to put your energy into something else, or maybe you need to work on getting more market share of the raccoons that are going to be available. This is where you need to get to a place where you are running your business rather than your business running you. And this can be a competitive advantage where you can say, I know this is going to be a big year for numbers. Maybe I need to get that ad in the neighborhood newspaper sooner. Maybe I need to do something a little bit more on Facebook. Maybe I need to do something more on Google Ads. These are questions that you have to ask, but you can't ask those questions if you don't have data that you can trust. Now, don't go out, and with 2 years data, make a huge bet. I would not recommend that at all. You need to kind of see if there's some trends, right? So this is something you're looking down the road, but you have to start collecting the data now. As the old adage says, what's the best time to plant a tree? And the answer is, 20 years ago. What's the second best time? Today, right? Same thing with this. The time to have done this type of a survey was 5 years ago, and kept doing it to the present. The second best time is to start this coming year. Hope that's going to be helpful for you. Again, don't forget to go get some data on some roads and try it out. You may find this is going to be something that can be very useful for you, particularly if if raccoons are a big part of your business. You may find that this is something that gives you a little bit of a competitive edge and say, well, maybe this is not going to be a big year for raccoons. Maybe I need to put my energy into something else and see how that plays out for you, because ultimately you can only have a raccoon job if there are raccoons in the area. Well, I'm Stephen Vantassel. You've been listening to the Wildlife Control Consultant Podcast. Do take a few moments, if you would, to subscribe to the channel. Give us a thumbs up. We'd love to have some comments of your thoughts. You can also reach me at wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com, wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com. Would love to hear from you, particularly if you have ideas for future shows. If you have something that's just burning, just an issue that you're like, I would love to know this, I'd love to hear from you. That can be really helpful, because we want this to be a service that helps you grow your business and stabilize your work, and do it in a safe, responsible, professional, legal way. Well, you've been listening again to the Wildlife Control Consultant. Thanks so much. Take care, everyone. This is the disclaimer for Wildlife Control Consultant Podcast. Vertebrate pest control is an inherently dangerous activity involving risk of bodily injury to you, others, and or property. Vertebrate pest control also involves legal issues, so be sure to always follow national, state, provincial, and local laws when using pesticides and or other control methods when controlling pests. Wildlife Control Consultant LLC, Stephen M. Vantassel, or their affiliates are not responsible for your use of the information provided here. Always consult a qualified and appropriate professional before employing the information provided here.